can conduct our 907, which is a presentation of proclamation recognizing the Friends of the Boggs Mountain for outstanding contributions to outdoor recreation and economic development in Lake County, and presentation of plaque honoring Debbie St. Cyr for extraordinary dedication to bringing back Boggs. And this is conducted by Jessica Paiska, and I have to sign it. They were sitting over here as I was...
You know what? I just noticed Debbie has she's not able to be here today, but she also has a presentation.
A pen, a blue pen.
No,
There's a desk. There's a desk, yeah.
I overlooked that. It's not on the agenda.
There we go. That blue pen is perfect.
That's blue?
Yep.
Yeah, that's blue.
Okay. Oh, so did we need to come back to this, or is she doing a pre? Oh.
Well, she's here in Zoom.
Oh, okay, sorry. And I'm making sure that,
It's a good turn.
here's this. And so if you'd like to go ahead and start, we're ready when you are.
Okay, great, thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. There's this one too, I think. Thank you. Right? Yeah. I'll put it this way.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm turning my video off just for internet purposes, just in case sometimes it gets a little wonky up here. First of all, thank you for having us on behalf of Friends of Boggs Mountain and their board of directors. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. Unfortunately, was exposed to COVID, so just being responsible and not showing up there.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit about myself. My name is Debbie St. Cyr. I am the executive director of the Redwood Trails Alliance. We're a nonprofit advocacy and trail construction organization in Napa Lake and Sonoma counties. I also volunteer with the Friends of Boggs Mountain Board of Directors. And I added some of them a photo that I have because I might be the one given the presentation and talking about this project, but this is truly a team effort. And without the Friends of Boggs Board on the back end, constantly working and donating their time, this project wouldn't happen. I always like to start these presentations with a little bit about trails and why trails. We all have a story. We all have the reason why we go out on trails. Trails are not my background, but they've been a part of my life for all of my life. They've been my go-to. They're my balance. For me, I balance joy, grief, and recovery physically and emotionally by getting out on trails, like everybody. For me, I've always gone out instinctively. I didn't know anything about trails, but as different tragedies happened in my life, my instinct was always to go out onto trails and find that balance and get back out in nature and recover. After the death of my son 20 years ago, I immediately went out to trails, and it was kind of my first experience with really finding my balance on trails. 2 years later, when my daughter died, the same thing, I instinctually went outside and went to trails. Since then, I've had 18 surgeries, many of which were emergency life-saving surgeries, abdominal surgeries. To recover physically and emotionally and to keep my sanity, I went out to trails, Boggs being the main portion of those trails. After the wildfire, the Valley Fire came through and burned many of our communities and our homes. My instinct again was to go out to trails. But when I went out to Boggs, there were no trails. After the post-wildfire recovery, our trails were gone. So myself, my community, everybody involved with this project and beyond, we didn't have anywhere to go to try and find that balance between the chaotic emotions that came with the Valley Fire. So we immediately banded together and we got to work. We didn't know exactly how we were going to help. We didn't know exactly what we could do. Again, there's a helpless feeling after wildfire just in general. We're all trying to rebuild. We're trying to relocate. We're recovering from a wildfire that tore through our town. But we knew we also needed to bring our trails back. So in February 2016, we started working with CAL FIRE. Boggs Mountain Demonstration State Forest was closed due to hazardous trees. They needed to do cleanup. But we knew we needed to get information to the community. We knew we needed to get our trails back, so we set out to find out what we could do in the meantime while we were waiting to build trails. The community wanted to know what was going on, so we found the best way that we could help was to get the word out. We could work with CAL FIRE. They would escort us in. They would let us know what was going on out there. Everybody wanted to know. Everybody wanted to know why they couldn't go in. They wanted to know the status of the trails, when trails were coming back. That was the constant question. Daily, we would get that question, no matter where we were. If you were in the store, it was always, when do we get our trails back? The trails are a critical component to the community of Cobb and beyond. Many events were held here. Many events were held that provided local economy. They boosted our businesses. One weekend, you could see the stores, shelves and hardesters would be wiped out because people would come and spend money in our town. And we lost all that with the fire and with the loss of our trail system. So what we did was, working with CAL FIRE, we decided to utilize social media, our email list, and newsletters, and we started writing articles about what was going on and keeping people updated on what was happening. In the height of getting this information out, our posts would reach over 20,000 people. There were so many people interested, not just in Lake County, but beyond, to see what was going on with Boggs. We next needed to figure out how we were going to put in the trail system. None of us were trail builders. We had done some maintenance and pruning and, some minor work on trails that were there before. But to restore a 22-mile trail system, we did not know what we needed to do. So we first signed an MOU with CAL FIRE. So Friends of Boggs Mountain and CAL FIRE came into a 5-year agreement to restore the trails in Boggs. We then contracted with a master trail builder to teach us how to build trails, but also to teach us how to build trails. We knew we wanted community involvement. The community wanted to be a part of rebuilding. Rebuilding trails after a wildfire, it's kind of a tangible to an intangible feeling that you have inside. So it gives you something to do with your hands. It gives you a feeling that you're helping in what seems like a helpless situation. So during training, we needed to learn basic fundamentals of trail construction. We needed to learn about drainages. We needed to learn about erosion, armoring wet areas, bench cutting, clearing slash. There was a ton of slash that needed to be cleared. A lot of chainsawing for a lot of logs that were in the way of the corridor of the new alignments for the trails. So we also pulled in people who would learn how to build trails, but also be crew leaders for when we started holding volunteer work days. One of the main ways that we got started, we knew we wouldn't be able to build 22 miles by hand. That's a lot of trails. That's over 116,000 feet of trail that needed to be put in. So we started researching and talking to our master trail builder, and we learned that we really needed to get a mini excavator. So we got a Bobcat E10. We had a generous donation from the Calpine Corporation in 2019 that purchased the tractor for us, and we were lucky enough, being a nonprofit, we got a significant discount, which helped us out a lot because we knew the trails were going to be expensive to put in. Volunteers are the heart of the community. Without volunteers, this project wouldn't happen. To get their input, their help, to provide them, again, a means to use their hands and to feel like they're contributing and in something that is tangible and something you can see the end to. Our volunteer days are generally from 5 to 100 people. When we first got started, everybody was motivated. They wanted to come out. There was a lot of cleanup. And our usual trail days now are average about 20 to 30 people. And then if we have a large project, then we'll bring in a larger amount of people. On the days where we had 100 volunteers, we had corporations like REI who came in and helped fund that. During that time, we were able to build 1.2 miles of trail in one volunteer day. So in less than 6 hours, we got 1.2 miles of trail built. Volunteer logistics. Volunteer days are a lot of fun. Getting the community involved. It helps with the community. It helps us. It helps the forest. There's a lot of logistics. So a lot of that back end work that I was telling you about with the Friends of Boggs board, there's a method to successfully have a volunteer day, and that is finding a project that will be interesting, usually building new trail, and having something that can be finished that volunteers can use as soon as they're done. They can go hike it and go check it out, and that helps to make it successful. But it does take a lot of work and a lot of logistics in the setup and the post-volunteer day cleanup, with cleaning the gloves, cleaning the tools, keeping everything organized. As a nonprofit, we are not just sitting on money. We're like many nonprofits, we are scrambling around for money constantly. We're funded through private donations, through memberships to Friends of Boggs Mountain, fundraising efforts, and grants. So far to date, the total project cost has been about $183,000. Many of our partners either donate in money or they donate goods that we can raffle off, or in any way that they can support. Sometimes it's even just hosting a volunteer day. Without our partners, we wouldn't be in existence. We unfortunately, in the middle of this project, like many places, COVID shut us down. We had just gotten really into a groove of having regular trail work days. Sometimes they were weekly, sometimes they were monthly. And we could no longer do that when we had the lockdown. So we had to reduce down the trail crews that came out. So the paid trail team that came out, they had to be in small crews and be separated from each other. We, in the beginning, could hold really small volunteer days, so 6 people or less. Funny enough, we learned that a McLeod or a shovel was 6 feet distance. So that's kind of the distance you stay in trail building anyway. So we were able to pull off a couple of volunteer days before we were completely shut down. But during that time, we also lost all of our funding. All the grants that we were going after that year had shifted, and we received words that they were shifting that money to COVID recovery, as most people were doing. So a lot of our grants and donations, nobody knew what was going on. But that didn't stop us. In 2022, we made a comeback. We held a fundraiser, and I'll show you this brief video, which it was the kickoff of our fundraiser in February 2022.
Debbie, this sound's not working.
No sound?
No sound.
Okay. That's not critical then. We'll carry on. So it was a cool video. It had a lot of really good footage of Boggs and the burn and some of the recovery of the trees, and just kind of talks about our project. We launched a fundraiser in February 2022. We had a 10-day fundraiser where we did a bike giveaway that was donated by Specialized Bikes. We raised $80,000, and we're happy to say that since then we have added 4 new miles of trail this year. So the team and volunteers built in February and again in April. Now we have over 10 miles of multi-use trails, and we do still have another 12 miles to go. So we still have a lot still on this project. We're really grateful for the fundraising and the community for stepping in. We're also super proud to announce we were able to bring an event back, Bike Monkey Boggs 8-hour race, which is a race that was held in Boggs for 11 years up until the Valley Fire. Came back in May of 2022. There were over 500 people who attended. There were 400 riders who rode in the 8-hour race, and yes, they do ride for 8 hours in a loop. And we had about 200 people who stayed and camped and spent money in the town of Cobb, and a critical part of our economic recovery since the Valley Fire. So with all of that, with the trails returning, hope is returned, life is returning to the forest. It's beautiful out there, and if you haven't been out there, I really encourage you to go out and check out the trails and check out the trees that are coming back. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. as you can see, this has been an emotional journey for so many of us, rebuilding the trails and kind of helping the forest recover from the wildfire. So, before the fire, we used to go out to the forest and the forest would take care of us. And you would go out there to get that calm feeling. When you're in nature, do you get that calm feeling? You feel really good when you're out in nature. It's really, and then when that nature is gone, and then you have to step in and care for that, care for the forest and volunteer and be there to help. It's just interesting how that relationship shifts over time. So one of the things that we talk about for whole person health is getting out in nature and getting exercise, and that takes care of your mind and your physical body and all of the things that we need to be a really healthy person. So I want to thank the Friends of Boggs and Debbie for all of their dedication over the years.